This machine is something quite different. We kept it really in a way for sentimental reasons because it's been with the company so long. We don't know how old it is. Could be 150 years old, something like that. But it was a bean polisher.
Right, okay.
Purely to polish beans, to make them the sample look nice. A lot of seed, years ago, we run beans and French beans, as they grow on the ground, they quite often, when they're combined, they can be very, very dusty.
Yeah.
And the sample doesn't look all that bright. So this machine would clean them.
So this is for aesthetics then, basically, yeah?
Purely and nothing else. It dates back to the days when seed was sold very much by sample. Not just on germination rates, which are the most important factor, but also how the sample looked.
Yeah.
And it dates back to the days when most towns had a seed merchant in the high street. And, they'd quite often have an open bag of seed.
Or a basket with a seed in
it. And of course, if that sample looked nice and bright, that was more likely to sell well.
Yeah.
And the way it works, all it is a central spindle down the centre of the machine encased in a wire cage, and the central spindle has got sheepskin attached to it.
Oh, right, yeah.
And as the spindle flies round, of course,
this is just brushing it down, yeah.
Polishes the seed.
And of course, because beans are very attractive-looking seeds, aren't they? You get mottled, and they are quite beautiful. So when you get your beans and you get them out the packet, they have been prepared. They have been polished for you, have they?
In most cases, they're fairly clean these days without using this.
Right, okay.
We have used it recently, but only on very rare occasions. Yeah. But this really dates back to when a lot of the seed we were buying in came from Tanganyika, which is now Tanzania, where there was a lot of seed grown around the Arusha Park near Kilimanjaro. They get the meltwaters off the mountains there, and they grow a hell of a lot of French beans, terrific quantities of them. They still do. But years ago, they used to come in very dusty. And of course, this old machine used to clean.
So that's where you use them. And that is then, I take it, if you took that on the Antiques Roadshow, you'd probably get a bit of a score for that, wouldn't you?
Machine, yeah. You can see, but you can judge a little bit the age of it by the type of lubrication. This was dated a bit back before grease nipples.
Right, I see. So that really, like grease nipples like you get on mowers and stuff. Yeah.
And this was topped up with oil.
Right, to make sure it didn't seize.
Yes.
Brilliant. Well, after our bean cleaning machine, this looks positively 21st century, Peter. What's going on here?
It's about 20th century, but it's a little bit out of date as modern things go, of course, these days, but obviously far different from the other machines we've looked at. This is a optical sorter, or again, as it's known in the trade, a magic eye.
A magic eye.
Magic eye. This will sort any product by colour. And of course, when we're talking about seed, we want to get sometimes seed which has been damp, which has probably got a stain on it. It might have a black or a brown or a purple stain on the seed. And seed which has been stained, that's usually by water, probably won't germinate very well. Or if it did germinate, the vigour would be so poor it would never mature into a decent plant. And as I say, this will sort by colour. It takes a little bit of effort to set it up, but basic principle is that in this box here, we put 3 colour cards. The cards are on a sort of blue or purple spectrum in the colour range, and the settings are made for the machine to eject any seed that doesn't conform to the way we've set it.
So it's getting rid of any bad product. Yeah.
And as the seed flows from the main hopper at the top, it comes down these 2 channels. As it falls down through the channels, through the optical box here, it's recognised, and further down the machine there are 2 little compressed air guns, and as the seed flows down this channel, they're ejected out of the stream by the compressed air. And when it's running, it sounds almost like 2 little low-powered air rifles going off all the time. You just hear this constant little pop, pop, pop as the seeds ejected from the stream. And that will do more or less any product. And you could, if you mix 2 seeds together, you could separate them by colour.
That's incredible. So that, I mean, that really is 21st century, isn't it? Yeah, that's because I suppose originally that kind of thing, before this sort of thing came along, would have been done by hand or by eye, I suppose.
Oh yes, before this we had 14 ladies picking seed.
Really?
Yes, they'd sit at long benches with seed coming down from a tube from a floor above, and they'd sit there and pick along all day till the whole season's crops were finished picking.
Amazing. Well, I'll tell you what, thanks very much for that tour. I hope we got one more thing here? Okay, let's there you go. Yeah, I'm getting it.
This one you can't see too much of, but again it's for cleaning peas particularly. As most gardeners will know, when they grow peas in the garden, they'll quite often get little maggots.
Yeah.
And they'll bore into the pea. On a commercial scale, obviously we can spray in the field, which will stop a lot of that. But of course, sometimes in the corner of the field where that hasn't been sprayed properly, you will still get the odd maggot or two. And also in the process of combining, you can, in the dry season particularly, you can get damage to the seed coat, and you'll get a little hairline crack in it and a split. That seed again is unlikely to germinate. So really we've got to get it out.
Yeah.
And again, before we had this machine, it was a matter of ladies sitting at benches picking away till it's clean. But this machine, the principle this works on, the whole of the cylinder that you can see here revolves, and it's carpeted inside with little tiny needles, thousands and thousands of needles. And as the seed roll comes in from the farther end of the machine, it runs along the bottom of the cylinder. And as the cylinder revolves, anything with a crack or a split is caught on a needle.
Right, so it sticks to the needles, basically, yeah.
They're carried to the top of the machine where there's a revolving brush. There's a brush the full length of the machine.
Yeah.
And that brushes them off the needles into a waste channel. And they go off down the
So again, this is quality control. A big machine, especially for peas, but for quality control.
product mainly, yeah.
Yeah, for the right product. So when you get your peas and you get them home, everyone in that packet is going to do what you've paid for. Yeah,
to make sure it's up to standard. Yeah.
Well, I hope so. I mean, when I open a packet of seeds in future, I'm going to be thinking of this line of machines, because people just don't realise what goes into it, do they? Really?
No, it's not only. It's up to our standards. We have to keep our standards as high as we can, but also there are legal standards.
Of course, you've got EU regulations, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, there's always been standards for the purity of seed.
Yeah.
We have to sell seed, not chaff or rubbish.
Yeah.
There's the standards are 99.9% in some cases, and if it's not to that standard, we can't.
And also, you've got to make sure your varieties are true and all this kind of thing as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Peter, because that's absolutely fascinating, mate. Isn't it?
One more you want to look at?
Is there? Yeah.
Fascinating.
Okay. Well, you said there was another machine that would intrigue me, and this definitely does. Well, so what is this then, Peter?
This is known in the trade as a spiral. I may have another name, but I've never heard it called anything else. What it was for is to take out things of different shape. Again, with the first machines we looked at, it's a similar sort of thing where you can get seed or waste product in the seed which is similar diameter and a similar weight to the seed product.
Yeah.
And the other machines can't get it out, but this one can take it out purely on centrifugal force, by the round seed running at a faster rate than the irregular seed. So you might have irregular seed or irregular shaped soil or stone in it, or even tiny pieces of bird muck, anything like that, or weed seeds, anything like that which is not a regular shape. This will take it out. And basically, as it works, as the seed comes down in the central part of the spiral, there's an inner core that goes right down the machine, and as the seed all starts on that inner core. As the seed, the nice round seed, gets about as far as the first spiral, it's picked up enough speed to throw itself off the first spiral and out onto the outer casing. The irregular shaped stuff stays in the central run and just falls out through another waste pipe at the bottom.
So if it was a piece of scrap or something we didn't want, it sticks to these inner bits.
Stay in the inner spiral, and the good seed will come out onto the outer spiral.
That's amazing. Yeah. It's simple but ingenious again, isn't it?
Very few things will make that final cleaning as well as a machine like this. On a large scale, people producing large volumes of seed would have lots and lots of these machines, similar to this type of new one.
Yeah.
That will clean a ton of seed in about 4 or 5 hours. One of the lovely things about them, once you've bought them, there's no more energy ever used.
Is that, yeah,
No,
so
there's no
that's-
electricity.
Exactly, so they're not using fuel or anything like that, are they?
No, and they're wonderful, wonderful seed cleaning things. What we're putting through here is a bit of cabbage seed. And coming off the waste section here is just some misshapen small seed.
So that's still cabbage seed, but
That we wouldn't sell. We're taking this out of the sample.
Right.
It's a new crop seed we've had in, and we just want to give it a final clean up. And this is rather small, misshapen seed that we want to get out of the sample.
Is it the fact it's misshapen, will that affect its viability?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. It probably hasn't matured well enough, and we need to get it out.
Right. So therefore, you're confident then the stuff that's been thrown up to the outside and has dropped into here is that's good seed, and that's a lot of cabbage.
Fit for sale.
So Tony, we've seen the warehouse. It's quite mind-blowing, I have to say. And then the seed comes in here, and now you're actually separating out. These machines, is this where it gets packaged?
This is where we put the seed in the packet, but between the warehouse and here, it goes into our cold store, and which then obviously the seed is then cooled down and dehumidified, so it's in the best condition to go into the foils.
So humidity and is quite important. Also, seeds have dormancy, and they're two things you've got to be very aware of when you're producing seed.
You've got to be very aware. You bring it down in temperature and the actual the humidity or the water content, you bring it down as much as possible so you can actually keep it in the best conditions.
So you're looking at probably in a seed about 10% moisture content, aren't you, to make sure it isn't going to germinate prematurely?
It's around that sort of area, yeah.
And this looks, I mean, always, you get your seeds, and I always get my seeds and you get the little silver foil packet inside. It's quite exciting when you're a gardener. But this is where this actually happens. Tell me about these machines, Tony.
Well, it actually does. You have a roll of foil, it goes through the machine, it's folded, the seed is then dropped in, it's heat sealed round it, and then the actual seed, when it's in there, it just seals the top. We also put a batch number, lot number on there so we can identify all seeds, it's traceable to its source, etc. And then it just goes through and just drops into the packet, and the packet's dated and priced at the same time.
So it all does it all for you almost.
Also,
and obviously it's measuring the amount of seed that's going in there by weight, I take it, is it?
It's actually done by volume in most cases.
Right.
We actually work it out from our laboratories of the actual amount of seed there is per weight, and then we actually do it on the volume of that, what equals that weight on a slide mechanism.
So that's amazing. So it's measured here, and then it's all cleaned. So this is now where it's getting dropped into the foil. It'll then go off to your packaging area.
And then it'll be dispatched.
Brilliant.
For you to grow in the garden.
That's right. That's why I get that exciting moment when I get my seed packet. Well, you mentioned the dormancy place, where the temperature's nice and cool. I think I'll go and have a look at that now. Yeah.
Okay.
Cheers.